Douglas Chapman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to speak in this debate ahead of the NATO summit in Brussels in a few weeks' time. Now is an opportune time as well to make clear our NATO commitments and to our allies the importance of strengthening the collective maritime strategy. With much military activity off the coast of Scotland, now at levels not seen since the Cold War, it's imperative we put a renewed focus on our security interests in the High North. As the Secretary of State for Defence acknowledged during an evidence session at the Defence Select Committee in May the 22nd, we are seeing much more activity in the High North, and indeed RUSI in their 2017 paper NATO and the High North and Atlantic issued a warning that the North Atlantic and in particular the Arctic is an increasingly important part of the Russian military strategic calculation, as evidenced by its growing defence modernisation efforts as well as naval and air prowess. It is therefore essential that the North Atlantic region becomes to be seen as being central to NATO's own strategic interests and be a recipient of more NATO assets. Despite such warnings, there was no mention whatsoever of the North Atlantic and the High North in the 2015 SDSR. This is a real poor reflection on the UK's government ability to effectively prioritise and plan our future security requirements. The new Modernising Defence Programme must address this issue to ensure that we are fully protected against rising Russian threats in this area. And not only that, but to also protect our oil and gas interests, underwater cabling, renewable energy, fishing and newly formed and increasingly important tourist activity in the Arctic, as that becomes a much more interesting destination for many tourists. In 2010, the then Defence Secretary, Leo Fox, decided to scrap the RAF Nimrod maritime surveillance fleet, which severely constrained our ability to locate Russian submarines off the coast of Scotland. That decision was remarkably reckless and left the UK with a tremendously weak position on one of its most vulnerable frontiers. We have no choice but to leave others to pick up the slack, such as the Americans, the French, the Norwegians and the Canadians who have MPAs entering UK airspace in recent years. In fact, at the end of last year, Air Chief Marshal Sir Stuart Peach warned our anti-submarine warfare capability has been seriously neglected due to underfunding. He urged the UK to develop our maritime forces with our allies to match that of the Russian fleet modernisation, yet we are still waiting for the full P8 fleet to be delivered. The UK's lack of maritime patrol aircraft is both embarrassing and dangerous, and this must change, and change soon. Scotland is strategically located to host the new NATO Maritime Command Base. Its proximity and accessibility to the North Atlantic makes Scotland the prime location to form a vital link between Western Europe and North America and to cover the Greenland, Iceland, Shetland gap. I conveyed these views on this proposal to the Minister for Europe and the Americas during my Westminster Hall debate on the appointment of an Arctic ambassador last November, and again I make the case today. The east of Scotland is by far the best option for a new base, and I hope the Secretary of State will make such representations at the NATO summit to our allies in July, and perhaps that commitment can be confirmed in the summing up later. In conclusion, I would urge the Secretary of State to work with our NATO allies at the Brussels summit to rethink our collective defence and put a renewed maritime strategy at the top of the NATO agenda.